Welcome to HMS, let the power flow. Feel the rhythm in your veins. Every rapid nitro flame.
All right. So in this video, we're looking at technology and its use in sports to enhance performance of athletes. So there's 3 sections we're going to go through in this video, and our first section being training innovations. In other words, how is technology used in the training aspect to enhance the performance of athletes, so therefore they perform better in their actual events. So technology has changed training from simple physical repetition to a highly detailed data-driven practice, right? You can imagine when I was a kid, there was no technology in training. You simply just turn up to training and you did your suicide runs, you did your sprints, you did your passing drills, you did all the stuff that you needed to do and the coach said. And then cross fingers, you got better. But these days, with all the technology, they can tell whether you're actually getting better or not. And because the data gives real-time feedback, but also you can start to compare the data sets over weeks and weeks of training to see whether there's improvement or not. So examples for training, I've given you 2 detailed examples and another 2 which you may want to mention or research on your own. So the first one, we've got VR and AR. So VR is virtual reality and AR is augmented reality, okay? So we've got virtual and augmented reality headsets enable athletes to train under specific conditions, okay? So let's say you were training NRL player and you're trying to do like a 3-on-2 practice or 3-on-2 strategies and work out what's the best thing to do in this situation, okay? Well, you could get 5 players and put them on a field and run the drill over and over and over again. Or you can get a player to do this and they could potentially do this at home, okay, providing the staff set them up at home for it, and they could get the practice and the decision making in their own time without impeding another 4 players. So it does provide real-time feedback on set plays, decision making, and helping athletes visualize strategies and tactics. A second example, we've got biomechanical analysis. So we've got high-speed cameras and bodysuit sensors. We're able to capture minute details to enhance technique. Okay, so imagine like a cricket fast bowler who's trying to enhance the speed at which they release. But obviously the speed they release the ball isn't just about them bringing their arm over. There's everything going into it, the run up, the delivery, the arch of the back, the force that they step down with, all that kind of stuff, which can be put all together through biomechanical analysis. So it evaluates physical performance, it can correct flaws in technique and therefore improve movement efficiency and enhance your performance. So other ones you may want to look at, we've got like strength and conditioning monitors such as like force plates. So determining, so like for a squat, for example, standing on a force plate, and as you push up into the movement, it can determine whether there's an imbalance between left and right, okay, because it can detect the force going through left, force going through right, which is really cool. And if there was an imbalance, you could then do some, one-sided or the other side, leg work to try and correct the imbalance. And then we've also got things like sport-specific simulators, which sort of blends VR and AR with physical equipment. So for example, I did show you in a previous video the javelin thrower. That is a very niche training innovation for javelin throwers, but also cricket batting. So, back in the day, we used to just go to the nets and people used to bowl balls to you, which was very inconsistent. You then stepped it up a bit. You could hire a bowling machine, which would basically stand there and you had 100 balls in it and it would just spit balls out at you and you just batted over and over again. Nowadays, you can sort of blend the VR and AR with the bowling machine and get some really good simulated cricket batting practice. So that's training innovations. All right, so our second one is now looking at equipment advances, all right? So modern materials have made equipment lighter, stronger, have larger sweet spots, as in like the place where you should hit the ball to get the maximum response, and also makes the equipment safer, all right? So there are many benefits of modern materials as opposed to, 20, 30, or even 10 years ago. So examples, so I've given you a couple, once I'm gonna give you a couple more. So our first one, we've got advanced materials like carbon and graphite, okay? So carbon and graphite are commonly used these days in high-level tennis rackets, bike frames, golf clubs, even running shoes, okay? To increase the stiffness or rigidity of the racket or bat or whatever it is, and reduce its weight. Now, because you've got a piece of equipment that is now lighter and stronger, that directly increases the expressed speed and power of athletes, all right? So if you can imagine, I've got a club, a bat, okay, let's say it's a baseball bat. It's a very big baseball bat, and it weighs, I don't know, 5 kilos, which it wouldn't, but anyway. It weighs 5 kilos. I swing that bat as hard as I can, all right? And the velocity, I don't know, let's just make something up. The velocity is like 100 meters per second, which is ridiculous. But anyway, let's go with that. 5 kilo bat, all right, I'm my own strength, okay? I can swing this bat at 100 meters per second. If I now have that same bat with the same stiffness, but now it weighs 3 kilos because it's an advanced material, I still have the same amount of power in my swing, but because it's lighter, I can probably swing it faster. So now instead of it traveling at 100 meters per second, it might be traveling at like 150 meters per second. Nothing about me has changed. It's the equipment that's changed, and now I can hit the ball further. This also brings up the issue of ethics in sport, which I'm sure we're going to touch on before the end of the unit. Because obviously some people from very well-off countries and lots of money backing their sports have access to this type of equipment, and then other people don't. So is that fair? Anyway, 3D analysis and printing, all right? So this is something that's getting more and more mainstream. So it allows the creation of equipment that's perfectly tailored for the athlete, all right? Such as, custom shoes. So custom shoes has been around for a while, but now they're able to do not only the soles, but the outer sole. So make sure that the lacing and everything, it fits like a glove, okay? Because when you buy a pair of shoes, they feel great, but it's never perfect, and you always know you're wearing them, okay? But imagine if you could make a shoe that you didn't know you're wearing it because it just fits so right, okay? Very expensive, but Custom handlebars to make sure that when you grip it, it's at the right distance from the body and the right angle and everything. Custom bats, once again, length, handle, same size, and custom helmets so that it fits perfectly for safety. So these all enhance your performance, but they're also increasing safety of the athletes as well. Other ones that I wanted to mention, we've got smart equipment, okay, with sensors and microchips in it to track data. So for example, for cricket, you've got the power bat. So when athletes in training, they use a power bat, which shows how much force they're hitting the ball with, how much angle of deflection and all that kind of stuff. But also you've got smart cricket balls, which capture the speed, velocity, the force that it's thrown with, the amount of revolution, so the spin it's doing, etc. So that data can all be used to enhance performance of athletes or cricket players in this case. And then we've also got equipment advances for protective equipment such as MIPS helmets, which I've already covered in a previous video. All right, we got one more. All right, so our last one we're looking at technology in sport here is looking at recording and monitoring of data to improve performance and training, etc. So technology and software enables coaches to gather immense amounts of data to reliably track progress, prevent injury, and enhance athlete performance, right? You can see how the 3 sections of today's video have all sort of blended together, okay? So our first one, we've got wearables and embedded sensors, okay, in equipment. So we've got GPS trackers, smartwatches, shoes with accelerometers in them. All this does is capture real-time data on an athlete's output to therefore manage their workload and facilitate peaking, okay? So if we can use this data and we can see that the athlete is slowly progressing towards improvement, then we know that they're nearly at peak performance, and we hopefully want to hit that at their event time, okay? However, if you use that data, and I've sort of got it linked here as well, a coach could use this data and see that, if their athlete went on a 20K run 3 times a week, and then slowly over time, that run is getting progressively slower, or when they hit a hill, they weren't accelerating quite as quickly up the hill, then the coach could determine that, oh, hang on, I think this guy's doing too much and we need to back off training a bit to then facilitate a peak, okay? As opposed to think they're just getting better all the time and, they're actually not, and then they become overtrained and bad things happen. So we've also got data analytics and the use of AI. So AI analytics can discern team strengths and weaknesses, informing strategy and tactics. So not only can you use AI to analyze your own team, so a coach could use it to analyze the strengths and weaknesses of his team, but also analyze the opposing team, okay? So for example, analytics of a cricket team can help selectors pick the right batters and bowlers to win. So for example, if we analysed an opposing cricket team and the analysis came back and said, well, they've got a couple of really good fast bowlers, but their spin isn't so great. So therefore, when we pick our team, we're going to get quite a few defensive players in the batting lineup up top to try and wear the ball down, wear the fields down. So then by the time the spinners come on, we've got most of our batting lineup still present, and then we can just win overall. Another one that I wanted to mention was like injury prevention and recovery monitoring, so which is really important, sort of links into the first one I've got here. So this can inform coaches when athletes are overreaching. So overreaching is sort of when you are getting towards that very top limit of your training capacity. And if you keep training in an overreach state, you become overtrained. And overtrained is a chronic condition which leads to very detrimental performance, and we don't want that to happen. So by using injury prevention and recovery monitors, like tracking things like, sleep, heart rate, all that kind of stuff, especially when you're not training. So it's the time period away from training that we're trying to track this stuff, can inform coaches whether their athletes are still in peak health and performance, or whether they need to maybe, have a few days off to reduce fatigue and then go to training again. So they were the three major things that I wanted to cover with technology in sport, and that is the end of this video. Thanks.